It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions.
Touchdown, San Diego!
Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. It's Baseball Trading Deadline Show. We welcome you for the next hour. We're going to talk sports with you. We're going to go a lot of different directions. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, the venerable, the irreverent, in left field, John Riley. We welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast, brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego to serve you, and by North County Eye Center, offering free vision tests this month. Call North County Eye Center, Poway Escondido. Tell them Hacksaw sent you. John Riley, good afternoon. Do we have enough hours in the day to talk about the topics on the table today? Wow.
I mean, we were just saying July used to be a slow month, but now you got the trade deadline, the NFL camps, Major League Baseball, and the Olympics. What a great time to be alive.
Yeah, unbelievable amount of topics on the table. All right, couple of items. When we're done with this podcast, we do this thing called Fans Forum. Those of you who are piling in to our live stream telecast, you can join us. It's like old sports talk radio. You can call the talk show. Well, you can join us in Fans Forum because you're going to jump into John Riley's chat box, Explain Fans Forum.
Pick a topic, pick up the phone. So if you have a question or comment in the world of sports for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, just type it in the live chat on Facebook, YouTube, or on X, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And a reminder, X marks the spot. Everybody that watches us on live stream, I know you're all on social media too. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team on social media. Just punch up my name at Hacksaw1090 and follow at Hacksaw1090. And if you like sports, I invite you to check my website. It's written every morning. There's the address right at the top of the screen, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Check it out every morning. You'll get every story there is in the world of sports. And while you're there, on the homepage, there's a big orange box. Register to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. And by the way, speaking of joining, we want you to share, tell everybody what we're doing Mondays and Thursdays on this podcast, and subscribe. Therefore, you will get the alerts every time we put something up on our YouTube channel, which is quite often, even sometimes John does stuff in the middle of the night. We got a lot of topics to talk about. John, let's start with baseball.
Baseball. Padres had a heck of a road trip, Lee. I mean, I'm feeling encouraged about this team.
Roadie, holy cow. They go 7-2. And what I thought had to be a must-win series road trip. Went to Cleveland, beat the Guardians, went to Washington, swept the rebuilding Nationals, went into Baltimore and punched the Orioles in first place in the mouth. They go 7-2. They got it done with dominant starting pitching. Of course, there was the Dylan Cease no-hitter right in the midst of all that. They got it done with timely hitting. Xander Bogaerts comes off the disabled list, had a .212 batting average when he went on. He's now hitting .272. He hit almost 500 since coming off the DL, so that was really impressive. I think the Padres showed that first place Cleveland, first place Baltimore are not complete baseball teams. Cleveland doesn't have a lot of power hitting around. They're one big bat. Baltimore played really sloppy defense. Baltimore left a lot of guys on base. Baltimore looks a little threadbare in the pitching staff. So the Padres hit those guys at the absolute right time. I thought both Cleveland and Baltimore really looked like tired baseball teams in the series they played against the Friars. So the Padres come home. They take a deep breath. What's that ringing in your ears right now? If I close my eyes, I hear ringing.
Tinnitus.
Beat L.A. Beat
L.A. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Padres-Dodgers Tuesday, Wednesday, and we're going to see the aces of the staffs. I mean, Glasnow is going to start. Dylan Cease is going to start in one of the games in this series. So this is going to be fun. And here's the bigger story. When they get through Wednesday night, the next 15 are against the Rockies, the Marlins, and the Pirates. 15 in a row against the bulk of the bottom feeders in baseball. I mean, if they're going to force their way into first place in a pennant race, now's the time to do it. So we'll see if they can beat the Dodgers Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they play 15 against the dregs in the National League. Going to be fascinating. John, give me a quick response what you saw on the road trip. And do you subscribe that my ears are ringing, or your ears ring? Go ahead.
Yeah, my ears are ringing already. Yeah, what a great road trip. 2 out of 3 Cleveland. They swept the Nationals, got the no-hitter, 2 out of 3 in Baltimore. And we all give crap to Mike Schilt and how forthcoming and honest is he really in those press conferences? But he used to always say, hey, I love my guys. They've got fight. They never give up. And we saw that on Sunday, the way they clawed back, so you've got to be encouraged here about how they're playing. But I'll tell you what, facing the Rockies scares me. I mean, that's when they usually screw it up. That's when they usually lose 3 out of 4, and it drives us mad.
So there we are. The schedule is right there in front of them. When I saw that, I said, holy cow, 15 straight, Miami, Colorado, Pittsburgh, and then they go on the road and play the same guys. Great opportunity to go after first place. Baseball trade deadline is upon us. The Padres make the first deal. I like the deal, but I don't like the deal. And I know there's counseling for my bipolar attributes here. They get Jason Adams, 32-year-old relief pitcher who's reinvented himself in Tampa Bay, had bounced around and actually had been with the Padres for a brief period of time, found himself, got healthy, developed extra pitches, but in the process they give up the number 1 draft pick from a year and a half ago, Dylan Lesko, pitcher. They give up Homer Bush, 2nd-round draft pick last year. They give up another J.D. Gonzalez, a young developing catcher. Now, granted, all these guys are in the lower minors. The problem I have is this is typical A.J. Preller. He paid nearly $5 million above signing bonus money to get Dylan Lesko coming out of high school, coming off elbow surgery. Mm-hmm. He paid, I want to say, almost $1 million to get Homer Bush, 2nd-round draft pick. Rather than have the kid go to college, they signed him. And then they signed J.D. Gonzalez to, I want to say, an $800,000 package. So in essence, he spent $6 million for those 3 hot prospects at the top of the draft boards 2 years in a row, and he bailed on them a year and a half into their careers. He did that to get a 32-year-old pitcher who's had 2 decent years in Tampa Bay. It's just typical the way he does his business. Overpays, get him, trade him, takes on age. They needed relief pitching, so we'll see what Jason Adams is going to be like in San Diego. I tend to think he's pretty competitive, and he'll be a good setup guy with all the other guys that they've kind of latched onto now to get him to Robert Suarez.
Let me just comment on that trade for a minute.
All right.
When I heard the name, I went, who? Who is this guy? He's had better than decent seasons. He's been pitching with like a 2.5 ERA, right, high leverage, and that's exactly what they need. Now, yeah, they gave up Lesko, and they gave up the big bonus for Lesko, but he wasn't performing very well.
He's a kid.
But he's still coming off the surgery. I like how AJ is going for it, and he's getting pieces we need and trying to capitalize on this window. And you're the one that always says he's got boots on the ground, so he can go and just restock and reload. I mean, so he's just moving currency around. I love kind of the swashbuckling AJ Preller. And you know what? He's not done. He's going to get at least a starter, I bet you, before the deadline.
He has now traded 9 prospects this year, 9 of the top 12 players in the farm system. He has traded to go get Dylan Cease, to get Luis Ariz, and now to get Jason Adams. But
well, look at those guys. You got a no-hitter. You got an all-star. I mean, that's good return on investment.
I guess part of me says he knows what he needs on the roster, so he overpays to get what he needs to fill the hole on the roster. Better win. Better be in the playoffs this year or next year, because there is no future. There is no Padre future at all. Because a year from now, a year and a half from now, when we're doing this podcast, he'll have a roster on the other side of 34 and 35-year-olds with long-term contracts and no farm system to replace anybody.
Oh, he'll keep reloading, Lee.
Okay, if you say so. I want to ask you a pointed question. Darvish, he talks to Darvish every second or third day back in Japan. They discuss when he might return, if he will return. He says Darvish will tell him when he's ready to come back to baseball, if he wants to come back to baseball. I guess the burning question I have, do the Padres owe it to the fans and to the media to explain what has happened to Darvish, or is it a personal family matter? And I bring that up because it is a personal family off-the-field matter, but it's costing the team $7 million in salary, and it's costing the team a frontline pitcher in the most important part of the season as they try to fight to get into a pennant race. So that's a big issue, or is it Yu Darvish's story to tell? Joe Musgrove is going to throw a sim game in Arizona on Tuesday. He's going to throw 2 innings against Seattle minor leaguers in their summer league camp. He'll throw 20 or 30 pitches, rest for 8 to 10 minutes, come back and try to throw a second inning to gauge where he is. He's going to have to make rehab starts if he gets through this next one. So your response to Darvish, how it should be handled, is it being handled correctly? What do they owe the fans? What do they owe us, the media? And your thoughts on Musgrove?
The Padres don't owe an explanation for Yu Darvish, not any explanation. It's just a Yu Darvish thing. It's up to Yu Darvish to disclose that sort of matter. So I think the Padres are handling this like a first-class operation. You know, this is terrific, the way they're managing it. And, oh, by the way, Darvish isn't getting paid, which opens up a little bit of a gap, you know, that they can use during this trade deadline situation. You know, heart goes out to the guy. There's rumors, innuendo about what's going on, but is it going to change my opinion of the team if I find out it's a family issue, a medical issue, something else? I mean, it doesn't really matter. Musgrove, I'm encouraged by. I mean, if he can come back sometime in August, wow. I mean, Cease, Musgrove, Waldron, King, that's looking pretty good.
Okay. So we go from all things Padre baseball, and if you have an opinion, thumbs up, thumbs down, the price paid to go get Jason Adam from Tampa Bay to be part of the bullpen. We go from that to the next team, the next topic on the table.
The Dodgers. Man, they're wheeling and dealing, Lee.
First place Dodgers. Interesting Monday. First big trade for the Dodgers. Another trade maybe to come. We'll detail that in a minute. This injury situation just goes on and on and on. They've had 17 pitchers on the disabled list this season. Max Muncy, I don't think is going to play the rest of the year. He may have a torn oblique. He does not feel right. He's been on the disabled list since early spring. He can't do any baseball-related stuff because of this oblique. Betts is flexing his hand finally, but he's got to go through the whole thing of swings, catching balls, and see if there's any reaction. Walker Buehler, first rehab assignment, Oklahoma City, didn't go real well. 4 innings, 4 runs, 8 hits, clocked at 93, but his location was all over the place. Good news on Brusdar, Graterol, and Michael Grove. They've pitched 6 different outings in Oklahoma City, 1 inning each time, 6 innings combined, no runs allowed. One of them might be back. They need somebody back because the damn bullpen is imploding. I don't know if you saw what happened this past week with Evan Phillip, their, quote, closer. 4 outings, lasted 3 innings, gave up 6 runs, 9 hits. All of a sudden, he can't get anybody out. And this guy was nails for a chunk of time. And then Blake Trinan, Daniel Hudson, who are supposed to be the setup guys, they got shoved into the closer role because Evan Phillip couldn't be trusted. They got lit up. So the Dodgers have had a really rocky week. Trades, big trade. Dodgers just made an 8-player trade with the White Sox and the Cardinals. The Dodgers wind up getting second baseman center fielder Tommy Edman of St. Louis, and they wind up getting Michael Kopech, set-up long relief guy, part-time starter from the White Sox, but they give up their young infielder, outfielder Miguel Vargas, and they give up 3 lower rookie league A-ball players, all having good seasons in the minors. So the Dodgers, they paid a significant price. And John Riley from left field talks Dodger blue baseball.
The Dodgers, you know, on one level you think, oh, these guys are world beaters. They have unlimited money. They got Shohei and Mookie and Freddie, and they're rolling. And then you realize that they're not, you know, as tough as you think.
They're not bulletproof.
Exactly. They've got an Achilles heel. They have weaknesses. just like any team in baseball. So this, to me, is intriguing because what's the distance between the Padres and the Dodgers? Like 6.5 or
right
something.
now, 6.5. Could
Yeah.
be down to 4.5 by Wednesday morning breakfast, but it could be 8.5 by Wednesday morning.
Exactly. Yeah. So, in this series, by the way, Dodgers-Padres, is it in L.A. or San Diego? San Diego.
Petco.
No,
beat L.A.
Beat L.A. Oh, yeah, duh, of course. Okay, so this is going to be a great series, And then Bruce R. Gratterall, that guy, man, he's always doing this, looking up, and he's trying to, get into some squawking matches with Machado. That guy is just full of it, But we'll see him again when it gets into the, the end of the season for sure.
So that's where we are with the Dodgers. You're a Dodger fan. Do you like what they just executed? And everybody of the opinion there is a second deal coming involving this team. Injuries. Man, what a bad weekend of something real significant. Let's start first of all with the Angels. Mike Trout got shut down after the first 2 innings of his comeback from the scope knee surgery for the meniscus. Mike Trout has not been able to run or swelling back in the knee again. Now, there's nothing torn. They did an MRI. It is scar tissue. And the only way he's going to get through that is he's got to have movement, and he's got to have the ability to run, and he's got to be able to move side to side, but he's not been able to do it since they shut him down after the 2 innings in Salt Lake City. So that's another setback for Mike Trout. Really bad story with the White Sox. Mike Clevinger, gone rest of the year, major neck surgery, disc damage in his neck for Clevinger. His career has really unraveled. He hasn't been the same guy since he got here from Cleveland, and he had multiple injuries here. So that's tough news there. And worse news for the Mets, who are playing really good ball. Kodai Senga from Japan, who came here last year and pitched really well. He got hurt in spring training with a lat injury in his shoulder. He did all the rehab, and he's been out since February, did all the rehab till the last week of July, successful, on the mound, tears a calf in his first start, gone for the rest of the year. It's a big blow for the Mets. So you talk about a guy that's been out and did everything religiously, goes out and throws maybe 24 pitches and goes down with a calf injury. Not good news at all. But poor Mike Trout, he just can't get healthy, stay healthy, and now the setback. But luckily, there's no more meniscus damage. This is just scar tissue, and it takes time to work through scar tissue, but you got to work through it.
This is insane. I mean, the amount of injuries he's had for all this time. I mean, there's been NFL and NBA players that always seems to be injury prone. I'm thinking of Chad Pennington, maybe,
Sure.
who was hurt a lot. But I saw this video on Twitter, and it was about some guy just going off about Trout, saying it's incredible he's never won a Gold Glove, which I didn't realize that he hadn't. And it showed this video clip of him robbing a home run over center field fence. And dude's got hops, man. He got way up there. And I mean, that guy, Trout is a stud athlete, but it just seems as fans, we're being robbed of the opportunity because not only is he hurt, but he's playing for the darn Angels, and we don't ever get to see him.
Yeah, he runs into fences, and he's had some flukish injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, Achilles and calf and knee and getting hit by pitches on the hand, and just real fluke stuff, and it's tough. Okay, so we go from baseball injuries to what everybody in baseball is talking about, at least through tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, the trade deadline. Look at these logos, Lee.
23 trades so far since Friday. Let's just run through the hot names. I just told you about the Dodgers. Dodgers make a 3-way trade with the Cardinals and the White Sox. The Dodgers get a really good, I hate to use the word super utility man because that means he can't play, but he can play. Tommy Edman can play second, short, third, and center.
Yeah.
He solves a lot of issues for the Dodgers. Lifetime .264 career hitter. I think he's hit about 58 home runs, so he's got a little pop in the bat. They also got Michael Kopech, who at one point was a really good starter with the White Sox. They moved him into the bullpen, and he's kind of scuffled a bit as a long reliever, but that's a bad situation in Chicago. What's their record? 27-89, I think.
And I think he's 2-8.
Yeah, 2-8, but he's been pretty competitive. Now, if he's pitching for the Dodgers, he'll have runs, and maybe he'll do better. But that's the first significant deal the Dodgers have made. So the thing is Kopech going to go back to being in the rotation, or is he going to be part of this bullpen brigade to try to put out all these fires that Evan Phillips and the other guys have committed? Now, they give up Vargas, who's a bright young guy, and they give up 3 kids. I went back and looked at the records of the 3 kids in the rookie league in Class A. They're good, but they're prospects and they're 18 and 19 years of age. So the Dodgers get 2 pennant race contributors and they still have the guys they can trade. They still have Outman in the outfield. They still have young pitching at Oklahoma City, and there just seem to be deep and deep and deep of guys they can use as trade bait if they want. So it's kind of fascinating to me that the Dodgers continue to make deals but still have their marquee guys. The Cardinals get Eric Fedde, who reinvented himself when he pitched over in Korea, has come back. He was a former Washington National. Fedde comes to the Cardinals now, becomes one of their 4 top starters. And he's had a really good season in a bad situation with the White Sox. Over the weekend, big trade. Philadelphia Phillies get closer Carlos Estevez. Angels had 20 saves and 23 ops, really good ERA, good guy, good clubhouse guy. They give up 2 of their top minor league pitchers. So the Angels inherit a Double-A pitcher and a Class A pitcher. I mean, the thing that jumped out at me when I looked at the stats of the 2 pitchers they got, it's like neon light blinking. One guy got a 0.97 ERA, the other guy had a 1.87 ERA in the lower minor leagues.
That's awesome.
So that's real positive. Angels give up Estevez. Orioles, now they've made major deals. Baltimore, of course, got Zach Eflin from Tampa Bay, took on the big money contract. And then they made a deal with the Phillies. They got Sir Anthony Dominguez, who had been a setup guy in Philadelphia, one of these hard throwers they keep running out there. And he could turn out to be their closer because they've kind of lost faith in Craig Kimbrell, who just continues to give up home runs. So Baltimore's made a deal. The Red Sox got James Paxton for a Class A third baseman from the Dodgers. Paxton goes back to Fenway Park, although his record is kind of it's misleading. He's 8-2, high ERA, and all the metrics that they evaluate with pitchers are not positive. Paxton has gone back to Fenway Park. Arizona gets a closer. A.J. Puck, he came from Miami. He was a former starter with the Oakland A's, went to Miami. They flipped him into the bullpen. They taught him a new pitch. He's got an ERA of sub 2.00. So he goes to Arizona. And the intangible about the Diamondbacks is they got all these injured pitchers. You know, they've got nothing out of Eduardo Rodriguez, the ex-Detroit Tiger ace, and next to nothing out of Jordan Montgomery. Now, both those guys are back or coming back. So Arizona may make a tremendous push in August and September when they get this whole pitching staff put together. The Cubs traded for third baseman Isaac Paredes. He comes out of Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is trading everybody. The Cubs get him to be a cornerstone power hitter at third base. That's got to help them. Yankees desperate. The first deal they've made so far is to get Jazz Chisholm. They got him from Miami in a deal for lower minor leaguers. Chisholm obviously can play second, can play center. Dude hits. That's kind of interesting. And then the Mariners, in the first trade they made, they get Randy Arozarena, all-star outfielder. He comes from Tampa Bay. He's going to hit probably better in Seattle with better bats around him, and they need somebody at the top of the batting order. It's going to be a trigger man. So those are the deals that are out there right now that have been made. As I say, my eyes are falling out of my head trying to follow. There are 23 trades since Friday night, and the deadline is at 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. So, John, I threw a lot on the wall here. Go ahead, pick a team, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, do you still keep track of, like, on your paper? Because you do that for the NFL draft, and I mean the Major League Baseball trade deadline. It's just you're in the zone.
I am zoned out. Yes, thank you. So, what'd you think about the Dodger deal to get Edman, a super utility guy, and then get Michael Kopech?
Well, Edman, local La Jolla Country Day guy, and he's very versatile. He's kind of like Chris Taylor that can hit, because Chris Taylor ain't hitting. Hey, you left out my guy, Tommy Pham. He was in that deal too. Right. And he's going back to the Cardinals. And, I have such a love-hate relationship with Tommy Pham, but I love that he's, still relevant in Major League Baseball. And look at these other teams. Sir Anthony, that was always kind of a fun name. I'm surprised the Phillies gave up on him. But, this is a great time. Everyone's jockeying for positionally.
And we're not done yet.
We've got like another, 24 hours or so.
On we go to the trade board. Let's look at who's available. Now, there's a late-breaking name I'm going to put at the top of the board. I'm violating the code. I don't know what's fact or fiction. I can only tell you what my network guys that I email back and forth who are on the beat tell me. The Giants are talking to the Yankees about Blake Snell.
Nice.
Blake Snell, of course, had the wretched start reported late, got hurt. His last 4 starts, 0.95 ERA. His last start, he had 15 strikeouts. All of a sudden, he's dialed in. San Francisco signed him to a 2-year, $60 million deal, $30 million this time, and his option next year. They don't think he's coming back. So the question is, they're shopping him. The Yankees have stepped forward, and the Yankees negotiated with him last winter. The Yankees have got a plethora of young players they could use as trade bait, and they definitely need a dog at the top of the rotation to work with Garrett Cole, who's not been what Garrett Cole was prior to his injury in spring training. Now, the problem is with Blake Snell, if you trade a load of minor leaguers to get him, you get him for the final 2 months of the season and hopefully postseason. But if dude opts out, now you don't have him, he goes on the open market, unless you think I'm just going to re-sign him regardless. And that means the price tag goes up, et cetera, et cetera. But, boy, he could be what the Yankees need, and I don't think there's probably a hell of a lot of other takers out there. I don't know if San Francisco's dealing from a disadvantage because everybody knows he can opt out November 1st and go back into the free agent market, represented by
Scott Boras.
There you go, and that always means price tag.
Yeah.
So this is fascinating. So Blake Snell is right there. In Detroit, I just don't understand it. I mean, they are shopping their ace left-hander, Tarek Skubal. Jack Flaherty, we hear, is going to be traded. Dodgers are in the running for him. Yankees are in the running for him. Padres are in the running for him. Third name on the board is Garrett Crochet. White Sox are trying to shop him, but there's a huge issue that just developed because Crochet's agent says, before we accept a trade, we want somebody to guarantee us there's going to be a contract extension. This guy's going to be in somebody's pennant race. He wants to be paid like a frontline starter. All of a sudden, that's just kind of shown up. Luis Robert, outfielder. Dodgers had interest in him. Does the Edmund trade from the Cardinals mean they won't trade and have to pay steeply for Luis Robert? Toronto, depends who you talk to, covering the Blue Jays. One says Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman are going to be traded. Others say absolutely not. Third group of writers say Vlad Guerrero is being shopped. Reds are shopping Frankie Montas. He's bounced around. He's had injury problems. He's never quite lived up to what he thought he would. And Texas, which has already traded one pitcher away, is now talking about shopping Nathan Eovaldi. So there are more dominoes going to fall here between now and Tuesday afternoon, 3 p.m. San Diego time when the window closes. So, John, your reaction to Snell, Frisco, New York, where? And then other hot names there catch your attention.
Well, the other hot name, I was just looking online while you were outlining this segment. Justin Turner just got flipped. He just went to Seattle. So all this action's going on. This makes this time of the year it's like Christmas.
So the Mets get a Rosarina and Turner to go with Julio Rodriguez and J.P. Crawford to try to fix their weak-ass batting order.
Yeah, so the Mariners, can they fix it? I don't know, So
well, they got pitching now that added some bats.
There you go.
That's a good rental. I like Justin Turner.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he looks like the AM/PM guy. Yeah. But the Blake Snell thing is very interesting to me because, first of all, I'm very happy that he's performing like we had him last year when
Finally.
he was, and he's always a slow starter and all that. And the Giants seemed to it was like a desperate kind of a move when they signed him in the first place. That contract doesn't work for them. So I think if Blake Snell were to be traded, that's great. I mean, the Yankees are a great place for him to land if he can handle the New York media, which I think is a big question mark. But aren't the Padres kind of poking their nose around with Blake Snell?
Yeah, but that's with the understanding he is owed, I want to say, at least $10 million for the rest of the season. The Padres, the last I checked, the Padres had about $8 to $12 million total, and have already taken on Jason Adams' contract. And Giants are going to let him come to this team in this division. And what do the Padres got left that they're going to give up? I don't think he's going to come cheap. San Francisco is not going to send him to San Diego as a favor.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, how much more does A.J. Preller got that he can actually move that makes any sense? And the fact that the Yankees have dealt with Boras, have a relationship with Boras, are in the running to bid on Snell last year, that makes a lot of sense to me. And the Yankees, I still think, have a lot of chips that they can use. And New York could handle a $30 million opt-in payroll price tag next season. fascinating to see.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, the Giants have already unloaded an outfielder. Was it Toshman, I think?
Yes.
So they're definitely in sell mode. So yeah, this Blake Snell deal is going to be fascinating.
So you're a baseball fan. We have put a ton of baseball topics on the table. I want you to jump into Fans Forum right now so you can be first in line to ask a question, express an opinion. Go ahead, give us a rating on what Preller just did with Tampa Bay. Give us your reaction to the Dodger, Cardinal, White Sox 3-team trade, and, of course, the other hot names that are out there. We get to halftime. This Monday Bonus Podcast Trading Deadline Show is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. I talk too much on my podcast. I'll let him talk about DIXIELINE because he and I are both best friends with them.
Oh, yeah. DIXIELINE Lumber, great people, been in San Diego for over 100 years. They help out not just homeowners, but contractors, home builders as well. So you need lumber, building materials. If you're looking to remodel your kitchen or bath, or you need doors, windows, decking, DIXIELINE is where you want to go, right here in San Diego for over 100 years.
And we have to do a show in your man cave one afternoon to show them what you did thanks to DIXIELINE.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun, actually.
These are the guys. You got projects. They're the ones with materials. They're the ones with ideas. DIXIELINE Lumber. And our Monday bonus podcast is also brought to you by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. We're all going to need help with our eyes, whether it's just a vision test, whether it's new glasses, contact lenses, or something much more significant like cataracts, glaucoma, pink eye, sty infections. These are the people to do business with. And it does not matter where you live in San Diego County. They have 3 offices for you in Poway and Escondido. And they're offering free eye exams for any of our viewers that make a phone call through this month of July. North County Eye Center, the people that I do business with. And make sure you tell them Hacksaw sent me in. Before we go to the second half of our Monday bonus podcast, just a quick reminder. X marks the spot. You are all on social media. I don't care whether you're on the West Coast, whether you're in the States, or you're part of the O Canada Network. You dudes are all on social media. I want you to join my Twitter all-star team. Just go to X. Hit my slogan name. Is that the correct term? Slogan name? What do they call it?
It's your handle?
My handle.
Yeah, there you go.
Hit my handle. @Hacksaw1090. @Hacksaw1090. I want you to follow what we do on AKA Twitter, X. Also, you like sports? Check my website every morning. It's all written. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. You'll know every story there is in the world of sports. Also, there's a big orange box right on the homepage. Fill that out so you get on our email list of all the things that we're offering. And we want you to share. We want you to subscribe. Tell everybody what we do on Mondays at 1 p.m., on Thursdays at 1 p.m. And the minute you subscribe, you'll get all the alerts every time we put stuff up on our YouTube channel. And when we're done giving you all the stories, you're going to take part in this live stream with Fans Forum.
Yeah, look at all these opportunities to get involved, man. So, yeah, if you have a question or comment for Lee, drop your take into the live chat on Facebook, on YouTube, or on X. And yeah, if you want to get on our Hacksaw's what do we call it? The Insiders Group. That's what it is. And you know, we send out the best 15 minutes in sports just about every day, and a lot of other great stuff. So, but yeah, in Fans Forum, people are already lining up. Lots of baseball talk here around the trade deadline, Lee.
Ideal. We go to the second half, the Monday bonus podcast. We got news and notes around the NFL. Where do you want to start here, John?
Well, let's start with the Rams and the Chargers.
Let's talk about the Bolts. Jim Harbaugh has given us a big sales pitch about this roster, the players on the roster, the team he inherited, what he wants to change. Players got to be on the field to stay healthy, and they're hurting. A week into camp, Rashawn Slater, their Pro Bowl left tackle, outstanding rookie year, decent second year, hurt. Appears to have a calf injury. This early in camp, you don't want to have calf injuries because that takes time to come back from. Junior Colston, rookie linebacker, Michigan, played for Harbaugh, appendectomy, acute appendicitis attack during the rookie portion of the camp at the end of last week. He's out. Harbaugh lectured the media. It was his opinion that young wide receiver Quentin Johnston, first-round pick last year, who'd hardly made an impact at all, got a bum rap from the media. He was wide receiver group 1 in the rookie camp. He's been demoted to the second backup group now with all the veterans in camp. Why? drop passes.
Right.
So he didn't get a bum rap. Now, he's young. You're not going to give up on him. He's big. He's got great speed. They have to teach him the mechanics of catching the ball. I do like the 3 receivers they're running with Justin Herbert now with the number 1 unit. I've always liked Josh Palmer, the kid out of Tennessee. He's had 2 good years. DJ Chark is a big play receiver they signed from the Carolina Panthers. And Ladd McConkey is catching a lot of stuff coming out of the slot position. He, of course, is the rookie from Georgia. But you need more than 3 receivers, so a little bit wafer thin there. And Jesse Minter, the new defensive coordinator, man, he is praising the pass rush group. And on paper, that group looks really good. Talking Bosa, Khalil Mack, Tuiapolotu, plus the inside linebackers Perriman and Henley. And then obviously when they get Colston back coming off the appendectomy, it looks like the edge rushers and the blitz package is going to be really the heart and soul of the defense. My burning question, do you have enough guys in the secondary? My other burning question, who the hell is going to play defensive tackle? They let go of the top 3 defensive tackles. So that's what's going on in the Charger camp. Bad news, a week into the Rams camp, they have lost 2 of their top 3 cornerbacks. Darian Kendrick has gone down with torn knee ligaments, gone for the year. His backup, Darius Williams, who they signed as a free agent, went down over the weekend with a severe hamstring. Does not appear he's going to be able to play at all during the course of the rest of the preseason camp. They solved the money problem with Matthew Stafford, the quarterback. He wanted an upgrade. He's got all this guaranteed money this season, $34 million guaranteed this year. He had 2 more years on his deal, but there was no guarantee at all in the 2025-2026 contracts. What they did was they took some cash out of next year's deal, flipped it into this year, which pushes him over the $40 million guaranteed mark, and they put in roster bonuses for next season. They gave him in a total of $9 million total, some this year, the next year. So they've solved the contract problem with Stafford. So you got Harbaugh's sales pitch. You got some guys nicked up in the Charger camp, and the Rams losing 2 cornerbacks. And at this late date, it's tough to go get cornerbacks.
Yeah, it's interesting how the camps unfold. We're still trying to make heads or tails of these teams. I was surprised by Quentin Johnston. I was hopeful that he was going to, kind of have a great sophomore year, but maybe he's still got a chance. But when the season starts, like in September, right?
Yeah, second week.
I mean, what the Rams and Chargers? You know who their opening day game is against?
Off the top of my head, no, but the Chargers have a fairly favorable schedule. The Rams' schedule, I think, is a bitch.
Okay.
We'll talk more about that as we march through August.
Because I guess right now we're kind of like, it's like shadow boxing. You're trying to analyze the team, but there is no opponent, so you don't really know how good they are.
Yeah, and the other thing is, please don't get anybody hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Bolts have got some guys nicked up. The Slater thing with the calf, that worries me because that's such a physical force position, and if your legs don't hold up, you got problems. You don't want to re-injure it. You don't want to tear a calf muscle.
Yeah, that sounds painful.
That's a big issue, and I don't know where you go get cornerbacks at this late date. We're almost to August 1st, and nobody's going to give you a cornerback, so coach them up. That's what they're going to have to do. Okay, we go from that to the NFL notebook, John.
Okay, here's some more logos on the screens. The Steelers in your number 1 spot here.
Speaking of injuries, speaking of calves, speaking of their quarterback, Russell Wilson, in a span of 1 week, tweaks calf twice.
Ooh.
He's out. He didn't tear the calf, but the fact that he's dinged it twice, that's not good. Now, granted, they got 6 weeks on the rest of camp in Latrobe for him to go through all the intense therapy, wear the wrap and everything. But the fact that he got nicked up twice in a span of about 5 days, Pittsburgh is one of the first teams that opened camp, that's not good. This is terrible news in New England. Christian Barmore, great defensive tackle. I mean, Belichick drafted a really good player. He's a warrior. He's in a hospital. He's got multiple blood clots.
Whoa. Very
serious. They did not say whether it's in the lung area or whether it's in the leg, calf area, but he's on blood thinners, and he's going to be out. He may miss the start of the NFL season. He's a really fine player. And we know one thing in history of medicine, you don't screw with blood clots. That's very dangerous stuff. And it just develops. So he's out. Dallas has lost one of their pass rushers, Sam Williams, who's also a great special teams player, defensive end. Last night, torn ACL, gone for the entire season. Bad news for the Detroit Lions. Michael Badgley, who is a very good field goal kicker, torn hamstring, gone for the season. Green Bay situation, the contract, unique. They gave Jordan Love, based on one good season. He sat for a couple behind Rodgers, played last year, played really well. $55 million average. $55 million for one good season in his career.
Good for him.
The capitalist in you says yay. And Miami, Tua Tagovailoa, who's done very well in his career and has really evolved as a game winner rather than a game manager, he gets the extension. He gets $53 million. So that's real positive news there. You got the 49er logo up there. This is the update on Brandon Ayuk. He's unhappy. He wants to be traded. This love me not thing in San Francisco just wears everybody out. New England's interested. New England's got cap space. It's obvious the Patriots are going to have a high number 1 pick. They're having trouble signing Matt Judon, who's one of their top pass rushers. Frisco needs a pass rusher. The rumor mill out there is initially San Francisco offered Ayuk for the number 1, New England's number 1. Mm-hmm. Then New England came back and said, well, we want more than just Ayuk. Let's take your number 1, put it in the pot with our number 1. And Frisco came back and said, add Matthew Judon, the unsigned linebacker. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Add him into the equation. So what it would be would Ayuk and Frisco's number 1 at the bottom of the board. For the Patriots' number 1, it's probably going to be high, and the veteran pass rusher Judon. That kind of looks like a win-win trade for me. And thing is that Ayuk could be leaving a Super Bowl team to go play in Foxborough, where the weather is ratty in November and December. And by the way, they're not going to win any bloody games because they may have the worst offense in football. So that trade makes sense. So, John, there's a lot of names there, a lot of topics. Go ahead.
The trade makes sense, but the grass ain't always greener.
Exactly.
And so he's going to land over there in the Patriots, and they've got a lot of question marks at quarterback. I mean, he's not going to get the ball the way Brock Purdy can get the ball to him. But just for the Steelers, I mean, Russell Wilson, calf problems. I mean, how old is he? He's getting up there, right?
35, 36, I believe.
Yeah, so maybe, maybe he might be a bit shaky. And then they also got the quarterback Fields, right, from the Bears.
Justin Fields, he took all the snaps over the weekend. And he was throwing bounce passes, and he was overthrowing guys. He was all over the place.
Oh, my God, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a mess right
But,
now.
Again, they got 6 weeks to babysit Russell Wilson and get him totally healthy. But the fact he tweaked the calf twice in about a 5-day span, I don't like that.
And then wait for the season to start, or it's even going to be worse.
Yeah. So that's where we are. Those are the news and notes around the National Football League. You're a pro football fan. Hey, you'd be the general manager. Would you do this San Francisco, New England deal? Ayuk to the Patriots, flip-flopping number 1s, Matthew Judon? Or would you call New England back and say, why don't you take Deebo Samuel instead, and we'll just make that an easier trade to execute because he's under a long-term contract. So that's where we are in football. Hot topics on the table. We got other storylines to talk about.
Yeah, the high-speed sports fire, Lee.
All right, this is the latest. We've talked extensively about the TNT NBA feud. What was the favorite phrase I used on Thursday?
Lawyer up.
Lawyer up. They did over the weekend. TNT's filed a big lawsuit against the National Basketball Association, saying that the NBA changed the language in the matching contract clause. Initially, the NBA was of the opinion TNT did have a right to match, but only over the air broadcast, only what ESPN and NBC got, not over this new creative thing, streaming, that Amazon got. Warner Brothers, the corporation that owns TNT, you're a big stock market dude. I can just see this. You'll understand this. I cut class the day they taught Wall Street. In 2 days, their value on Wall Street, Warner Brothers, the whole thing, went down 9%. They went down $1 billion in value in 2 days after the TNT thing happened.
I believe that.
So big story there. They lawyered up. National Hockey League for the O Canada Network. Patrick Laine, former 40-goal scorer Winnipeg, traded to Columbus. All kinds of personality clash problems. Did not play well in Columbus. Left the team middle of the season, broken leg, put in the substance abuse program. He's now been released from the substance program the NHL provides for troubled players. Goes back and meets with the new general manager in Columbus. I want to be traded. So the Blue Jackets are putting Laine on the trade block, 204 career goals. Once upon a time, I thought this was a star in the making. He's just had a lot of issues off the ice. Auto racing. I've never seen anybody melt down like these guys are melting down. You're a Formula One fan, and we cover everything. That's why we put this stuff out there for you. Team Red Bull. This past weekend, Team Red Bull falls apart in qualifying. Max Verstappen, their superstar, who dominated for a year and a half and hasn't done anything in the last 5 races, his team is caught using an illegal engine booster in qualifying. He gets docked 10 starting points on the grid. He was supposed to start second. He wound up starting 11th. He wound up finishing 6th. And they continue to have problems on the course with the rules, in the pits, and personality issues between the driver and everybody else at Team Red Bull. Can you say divorce court at the end of the season with him? So that's the latest there. And the other one, last name on the board, this kind of came out of nowhere. Judge in Los Angeles has ruled that the families of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson can seize the entire estate of O.J. Simpson, seize everything that the O.J. Simpson, the late running back, owned. Houses, cars, yachts, his Heisman Trophy, his investments. Seize it all to pay off the $117 million civil damage lawsuit that O.J. Simpson lost that was filed by the Goldman and the Brown family on behalf of those who got killed in the stabbing of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. So it's just an absolutely amazing story that this has resurfaced, and the judge says you have a right to go in and garnish everything that was under his name to pay off the debt. $117 million O.J. did not pay on.
Well, hell yeah. I mean, they deserve that. I mean, they won that case in court for, the family had their family members killed. But going through some of these things, the NBA on TNT, that is just the inside the NBA, such a great TV pregame, postgame. Love those guys. But I'm surprised that the NBA is so hardcore on this. I mean, why not let your existing longtime partner match a deal? You think that you would at least owe them that courtesy. There must be something with the Amazon package. Maybe it's the sizzle of the streaming that's got the NBA really fired up.
TNT can't stream. This is all about developing a new concept of how to reach younger audiences, and streaming provides that. It's also $1.8 billion is what Amazon bid. Come on, to quote Charles Barkley, hey, read the fine print. They didn't read the fine print.
Well, I know, but this world's changing with streaming. So I don't know. I just kind of, it feels like the NBA's screwing over Warner Brothers on this. And Warner Brothers is a media company. I'm sure they've got partners here that could provide a streaming package. It's just weird that this didn't work.
The amount of money, though, that ESPN and NBC gave the NBA for over-the-air broadcast, over-the-air includes TV and cable. Phenomenal. They're not going to allow Adam Silver to come back and say, hey, can I cherry pick some of the games off your NBA or NBC ESPN schedule and form another package so we can mollify TNT and give them something? The other guys who paid volumes of money for the contract extensions are not going to give the NBA the chance to take some games off their schedule and develop a fourth package for TNT to keep TNT happy.
It sounds like the NFL and that whole Sunday ticket thing.
Exactly. But they don't have Charles Barkley telling the people at TNT, why the hell didn't you read the fine print?
Right.
So that's where we are. We go from that to the other big story. You're watching it. You can't find it all on TV because it's all on TV, but you got to find the 12 different channels it's on. We're talking about the Olympics. John, I thought the opening ceremonies, the Parade of Nations on the River Seine, I mean, I thought it was great, great theater. The flags, the boats. I thought there were some other things that happened there that were just unique. The salute to Team Ukraine on their own individual boat. They have only 2 medalists on Team Ukraine, and they stayed in Kiev and the other cities and trained while the Russians are bombarding and killing all the people in those cities.
Wow.
And there's a total of 15 Ukrainian athletes on their Olympic team. Everywhere they went on the Parade of Nations, and then when they got off the boat to go into the stadium carrying the flag, the response was unbelievable. And I thought the other thing, the boat after had nobody on it. And that should have been the Russian boat.
Ha.
And the Russians were banned. Their athletes are banned from the opening ceremonies. And the Russians who are competing in the events that started over the weekend and through this week and next week cannot wear the Russian uniforms, cannot carry a Russian flag, cannot hear the anthem if any of them medal. I mean, they are, quote, independent. So that's really interesting. But I thought the ceremonies were just electric. And then there's the unbelievable heartwarming story. This is the biggest comeback of all. Not comeback from an injury, but I'm talking about the comeback of the emotion of mental health. What Simone Biles has done, and she got nicked. She's got a calf injury, and yet she's staying on there. I saw her event Sunday on the beam, the single beam. I mean, she almost got a perfect 15 score, and this is a person that's competing with an injured calf. And she's going to compete in all 4 events in the team competition. And her coming back from the emotional trauma of what happened in the last Olympics and in the championships because of mental health. What a phenomenal story there. USA basketball, they stomped Serbia. Kevin Durant, LeBron James, 44 points, shot 62% from the floor, hit 18 threes in the Team USA win. Now they're going to play South Sudan on Wednesday in their second round game. But Steve Kerr's got a juggling. He's got some unhappy players. He did not play, Jason Tatum of the Celtics did not play Tyrese Hardison of Indiana in the first-round game, and they both kind of barked about it at the press conference. Mm-hmm. So he's got to juggle some guys, but they're going to play.
It's only one ball.
Yeah, that's right, and one game at a time. I was kind of aghast at this story. Team USA's women, obviously, they stomped Japan today in their first-round game. But Dawn Staley, the legendary coach, went public. And when asked on NBC about the whole Caitlin Clark story, and she made the comment, well, if we knew what she was going to turn out to be as a pro, she probably could have been put on this roster, maybe should have been put on this roster. Huh? You didn't take any of the accomplishments of what Caitlin Clark did at Iowa and give that any consideration at all? Now, Caitlin Clark's not angry about it. She's not talking about it. But Dawn Staley says, yeah, well, I guess we should have considered it now. Well, you think?
Jeez.
So we got that. USA soccer. They're rocking and rolling. Men's team, 3 goals in 22 minutes. They pounded New Zealand in their first game. Women's team is now 2-0. You know, last time we talked about the U.S. women's team, we talked about how young they were. Well, all those young players are really dominating. Sophie Smith scored 2 more goals. Mal Swanson now has 3 goals in 2 games. They battered Germany. In their
West Germany?
No, they battered Germany. I got a W here, which signifies win. They battered wise ass. They battered Germany for their second straight win. They've now moved on to the knockout round. And then the final Olympic story. We've not heard the end of this. We've heard the juicy part of it, and it's really bad, and now it's spreading like a bad oil spill. Canadian soccer, they are raging in Canada about the coach and the 2 assistant coaches using a drone to scout Switzerland before their first-round game. Illegally using a drone to scout an opponent's workout. They've expelled the head coach. They've expelled the 2 assistant coaches. They fined the Canadian soccer program $226,000. The 3 coaches have now been expelled from pro soccer for 1 full year. The fans were brutal. They booed the Canadian players, the Canadian women players on the field, which is unfair. They had no knowledge that any of this junk was going on. And now the investigation is spread to the Canadian men's team that they may have used drones to, quote, illegally scout future opponents in the Olympics. So that story still out there. I don't think we've heard the end of that story. So, John, what'd you think about the opening ceremonies?
Oh, I think the opening ceremonies are amazing. I mean, now, granted, there's the whole Last Supper, politics, religion. Let's put that aside. Really, you know, the parade, the boats, it was all terrific. It was weird that it rained, you know, in the City of Lights in July, and that kind of put a damper on it. But, it's the Olympics are a great event, and it's not just because the world and all the, we can root for our nation. It's more like everyone's coming together.
To feel good.
And then you've got these athletes that have been busting their butt for 4 years, 8 years, all planning to peak just at this moment. And, and then for some of them, they can put it all together and get a gold medal. I saw one of the male gymnasts from Japan, one of the top players or top performers, and he ended up having like some, brain farts. He froze and just, it can crack for them. It's just so emotional. But, you look at your headlines here. Yes, Simone Biles is fantastic. That young lady, she's really not a young lady anymore. She's been in the Olympics.
29.
Yeah, so she's working her way up there. She is so athletic, so strong. I mean, it's incredible given her diminutive size. USA basketball, I saw the game against Serbia. I mean, Jokic was out there on the opposing team.
By himself,
but that was a rout. Yeah, Caitlin Clark definitely deserved to be here. The SC coach, really admitted that they made a mistake. But, the whole Canada thing, I mean, they have Bill Belichick. There's their GM or something. What's going on over there?
Consultant, just terrible. I saw a really cool picture last night, and we're going to go to Fans Forum in just a second. I saw a snapshot of beach volleyball being played right there. And the stadium was constructed in a big parking lot. And right in the background is the Eiffel Tower all lit up.
Sweet.
What a cool picture that was. But the Olympics were really, really great theater. Hey, listen, our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego to serve you, and by North County Eye Center, offering free eye exams through the end of this month. Call them, set up an appointment. Make sure you tell them Hacksaw sent me. We got an unbelievable number of people stacked up here who've got opinions, baseball trade deadline, NFL. You want to talk about what we've just discussed as it relates to the Olympic ceremonies. John, your segment, out in left field, stand up. Welcome your friends on.
Yeah, welcome my friends. Let's go to Iran, or is it Irene? And she says they will always give up on guys too early. We're talking about Padres here, by the way. They always give up on the guys too early. That Washington trade still was the worst in history.
Well, you'd have to connect all the dots. She's making reference, obviously, to Soto coming, then Soto leaving. But some of the components also allowed them to get Dylan Cease. But at the end of the day, and this is my beef with my neighbor, A.J. Preller, is if you overpay for everybody and then you never stick around to see if they ever pan out and you use them to trade, you're never going to have a farm system, and you have no insurance if anybody gets hurt or somebody gets old. And now he's got a much older roster with nothing in the farm system at all, and he's kind of capped out budget-wise. So he has to win this year or next, because I swear to you, and people are going to hop on and say, oh, you're being negative. I'm being honest. There's no future for Padre baseball if they don't get to the World Series this season or next season, because there is no farm system left. And the roster is so top-heavy with older players on long-term contracts. Do you agree or disagree with me?
Well, top heavy. I mean, look about Jurickson Profar, 1 year deal, $1 million. So Preller's got flexibility. Preller is plotting. He's scheming. This is his World Series right now. He's not going to sleep for the next 28 hours probably.
It better be.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think the Padres, I like the aggressive approach. The deal with Washington, they gave up a ton. But, if you really kind of break it down, they got really good value, in terms of having Soto and who they flipped Soto for.
That's where we are, but at the end of the day, he's traded 9 of the top 12 minor leaguers in the system now.
Yeah, but you can, like we said, we can always replenish, and it's not empty. I mean, you still have Salas and DeVries and Snelling, so it's still in okay shape.
All right, thank you for the question. Next one.
Okay, let's go to John. He says, the Padres are in, quote, win it all, there is no tomorrow, end quote, situation. I hope these players have some longevity. Otherwise, it's going to be years just to clear the books and afford the rebuild. That's what you just said.
Well, exactly. But again, AJ knows players. I'm a big subscriber in his boots on the ground philosophy of how you find these guys and do well. I like the makeup of the bullpen. But at the end of the day, there's no prospects left. The cupboard is really bare. John doesn't care. John only cares about capitalism and what's going to happen in the Dodger series and how long we're going to be talking baseball in October.
Well, yeah, you got to build the minor league system, but the prime directive is the MLB team to make it competitive. And the Padres had this great road trip, 7-2. They're rolling. If they can take care of business with the Dodgers, it might turn out pretty good.
Okay, ever the optimist from left field. Thanks, John. Go ahead. Next one.
All right, the practicing guitarist says, Lee, John, it is evident that this team seems to play fine, arguably better without Tatis. Look at 2022 and this recent run. Thoughts on moving him?
Well, he's got a long-term contract. I mean, unbelievably long. It was, I think when he signed it was 14 years total. I don't think they're going to trade Tatis. I guess the remarkable thing is dudes are in the pennant race or kind of hanging in the pennant race without their number 1 and 2 starters and without El Nino. That's pretty impressive. Or is it just the fact, thank God, they're playing the lowly Washington Nationals and all the other bad teams in baseball? I don't know. But they're hanging in there right now. And, I mean, if they can win back-to-back versus the Dodgers and get this sucker down to 4.5 games, and then they play 15 straight against Colorado, Miami, Pittsburgh, first place is really right there in their sightlines. But they have to do it, and they haven't shown they could do this with any consistency at all.
Better without Tatis? No way. No
I don't
way.
think so either.
I mean, they got that Johnson guy playing right field. They got
he of the 157 batting average.
Yeah, and
yes.
David Peralta, who had a nice run a number of years ago, but he's past his prime. They're going to be better without Tatis. And by the way, Tatis is in the dugout with them right now. So if he's a cancer, you think it would be affecting the team now, but it's not. So Tatis coming back, Xander's hitting. The sky is looking good right now, Lee.
El Nino's missed a lot of baseball. I mean, you think of all the injuries.
Oh, God, yeah.
The wrist surgery, the drug suspension, and now this thigh injury. He's not doing anything baseball-related because he still can't. Mm-hmm. MRIs have been clean, showing healing in the thigh bone area, but he's not doing baseball-related start, stop, side to side.
Well, I saw him playing catch in the outfield at
but
Petco.
that's soft toss.
Yeah, but that's at least something. You know?
So that's where we are. Okay, thank you for the comment.
Okay, let's go to Angel. Because finally, the Padres are gaining ground on the Dodgers, and if they could sweep or even take one from L.A., they may have a shot at the NL West or HFA in the wild card. What's HFA?
You got me home field advantage, I would assume.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
I mean, they get a best of 3 first round, pal. You want it in your yard. I concur with you. So we'll see. I mean, this is an opportunity. Nobody was paying attention to the schedule. I looked at the schedule at the end of last week. I said, holy cow, 15 straight against the Rockies, the Marlins, and the Pirates. So, Angel, it's right there in front of them. Next question.
Okay, who we got here on the list? We'll go to Casey. And Casey says, I hope the Dodgers got another move up their sleeve as Kopech era scares me and an injured utility guy. Still hoping they add a closer like either Tanner Scott or Kyle Finnegan.
They're trying hard with Washington to get Finnegan, the left-hander, but, man, the Nats are barking for a big price. So the burning question is the Dodgers still do have a lot of hot prospects, Outman, Gavin Lux. They got AAA pitching standing in line. Would you rather spend it to get the ace of the Tiger staff, Tarek Skubal, the left-hander, or just rather pay a little bit less and just go get Finnegan? They've had so many starts and stops with the guys coming off rehab in the rotation, the Kershaws, the Buehlers, who's ready, who's not ready, who suffers a setback after they get here. So I tend to think they probably will go after either Skubal or maybe Jack Flaherty. Now, the Yankees are out there, and the Yankees are rumored going after those two same guys. And the Yankees have got a plethora of hot prospects, notably at AAA. So Yankees-Dodgers will be playing the Price is Right, and which deal will Detroit take? Or maybe Detroit trades them both. Maybe they trade Skubal and they get Flaherty, and then they get a Brinks truckload of hot prospects from both the Yankees and Dodgers. So between now and 3 p.m. Tuesday, it's going to be interesting.
How do they decide when the trade deadline is going to be? Because it's not always the same date on the calendar, is it?
More recently, it's been around August 1st.
Yeah.
Now, there was a move afoot. It used to be the 15th. Prior to that, I think it was August 31st. But they did not want the pennant race impacted right at the end of the season. So they moved it into August. It was just kind of a weird conversation that baseball had with the union about, is everybody going to sell all their players the last month of the season? I mean, Detroit take everybody off their roster and send them to all the pennant contenders. And is that fair to Detroit fan? But it was the 15th, and then got bumped up to the 1st, and something because of the calendar this year, it goes to July 30th.
Yeah, because usually, obviously September's off limits because people are trying to build their playoff roster. They used to be able to do the waiver deals in August. That's off the table. But this trade deadline, sometimes it's August 1, sometimes it's July 31, sometimes it's July 30.
But that's only a couple days.
Yeah, a couple of days, but I'm just wondering why it's inconsistent. I don't know.
I think way back, and this has to go back decades. I think it used to be June 15th. I mean, it was really weird. Why there'd be a trade deadline in June? But I think way back in the day it was. But the union gets involved in that, and baseball's trying to protect the integrity of some of these clubs too. That you just can't conduct a fire sale and screw your fans. Period! Exclamation point. So.
Well, if I'm the Dodgers, I'm going all in, man. You got Ohtani, Mookie's coming back. They got to go for it.
Next question.
Let's go to Callan. Hey, Lee, all of us on here are sports junkies. What's your go-to Olympic event? Have to say these games have been extremely entertaining.
As a broken down distance runner, I love track and field. I love seeing the involvement of our sprinters. I mean, what we've seen with these sprinters has just been phenomenal. What Richardson's going to do in the women's 2 sprint events, what Noah's going to do in the 2 men's 100, 200, trying to double there. I mean, those are fascinating things to watch. But, I sat there mesmerized watching Simone Biles on the balance beam last night. And she's competing with a calf injury, and she pulls off a near 15 perfect score. I said, wow. I watched just a snippet today of Japan upsetting China and getting the gold in all-around gymnastics.
Wow.
All these different events. I'm a huge track and field guy, but I like watching some of the other stuff. And then obviously I love the Winter Olympics because I'm from snow country. And, I love to see the downhill. I love to see the ski jumping. It's just fascinating.
Like
stuff.
Eddie the Eagle.
That's right. Callum, thanks for the question.
Yeah, I know. Speaking for myself, I was watching some of the men's rugby, and I had never really watched rugby, but you can see how it's similar to football and similar to soccer, and I'm trying to understand the rules as it plays out. I was watching a women's cycling event, and in the rain, riding over cobblestones, and the bike slips out from under them, because it's terrible conditions given the rain. But this is just a spectacular time. I love it all. Bring me more Olympics more of the time.
You're big on breakdancing. They're going to give medals out for breakdancing.
Breakdancing? You talking about breakdancing?
Speaking of rugby, for the old Canada Network, do you know the genesis of the Canadian Football League was rugby back in the early 1900s? That was a rugby game that evolved into the Canadian Football League.
Interesting.
Back in the day.
I didn't know that.
See?
Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Greg. Lee, I believe there are too many interleague games. My suggestion is have all interleague games possibly in April so the teams can have more games within their division.
Well, I don't know that playing the Rockies 19 times a season. See, I think you and I, Greg, don't agree with this. And John, I think John is on my street corner for once in his life. I like the fact that we're playing everybody in our division 13 times rather than 19. I like the packaging that everybody in the American League is going to come in here over a 2-year window. We'll get to see the entire American League at our ballpark. They'll, half of them will be here this year. We go somewhere this year. Next year, the other half comes in here. We go to the other ballparks next year. I like that a great deal. The one thing about the interleague, and when they first started it, I think I was talking to Lucchino at that point. There's a novelty to how you market interleague play. In the first couple of years, they set out in June and July as interleague play. So you play everybody in your own league, and we got to June and July, and you went heavy-duty, wall-to-wall interleague play, and it kind of became a specialty thing, So we get to see the Yankees and the Red Sox versus the Dodgers in interleague play in June and July, but now it's scattergunned everywhere. I think it lost a little bit of its oomph. I thought it should be a special event, and it was for a couple of years, and I got rid of it.
Well, yeah, it was special at first because it was taboo. You never saw the cross mingling here except in spring training and the World Series. I think they got it right now because it's like the NFL and the NBA season where, you know, you're playing the other teams in the other conference and you play them less frequently than the teams in your own division or your own conference. But I think they're finally getting it right.
Yeah, I think so, too. Thanks for the comment, Greg. Next question.
Next question. All right, let's go to the Rap Album Depot. He says, everybody was asked what a LeBron of soccer would look like. Hey, it's Tritney Rodman.
She's a star.
Yeah.
Sophie Smith is a star. Mallory is just, she's become a star. It's really interesting what women's soccer. And we saw this coming about a year and a half ago. We wondered what women's soccer would be. And now, of course, they brought the coach in from Chelsea in England, who's got a great track record reputation of awards and ceremonies. So, you know, Team USA right there in women's soccer globally. And now we'll see where the men are going to go after their second win and move on into knockout round. And they're doing, remember, in the Olympics, it's under the age of 23. It's a young roster. You're allowed 3 veteran exemptions on the men's roster and the women's roster. But these are 2 really, really young sides for Team USA.
So that under 23 thing applies to the women too.
Yes.
Interesting. I'm all for putting your best players on the pitch, on the court, on the field. I think they should lift that, the 23 limit, because I like it that pros are playing in the league. I like it to see the top stars in the world in the Olympics.
But I buy a piece of that, but I happen to think the NBA playoffs and the championship is the top of the mountain in that sport, and playing in the Olympics against a substandard team from Japan or the Philippines.
Well, the gap's closing in international basketball.
Not everywhere.
Well, but it's closing. And so it's a lot more interesting. I mean, South Sudan almost beat Team USA a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, look what happens in game 2 when they get beat by 53.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Richard. Fans Forum here. With Ohtani deferring his salary to help build around him, if this is the only move LA makes, is this considered an epic deadline failure?
No, because if they don't win the division, it's not that they did not make moves or did not try. It's because they got 17 pitchers on the disabled list. I mean, lost in all the argument of why everybody hates the Dodgers is the fact they're still in first place. And Dave Roberts, who an awful lot of people in L.A. and some in San Diego don't like as manager, he's got them in first place. It's a peaceful clubhouse. And the balancing act with all the personalities and the egos, he's been able to maintain it and done a good job. So if they don't get there, it's a byproduct of how many arms that they have lost. 17. I swear to you, all the years I've covered this, and I pay attention to all this stuff, I've never seen a team have 17 pitchers on the disabled, and virtually every one of their top starters has been on the DL for shoulder, elbow, surgeries, rehabs, re-injures, etc. At one point, they had none of their starters in the rotation. After they DFA James Paxton a week ago, all their top 5 starters gone for a wide variety of reasons. Now they're hoping to get him back. We got 2 months left in the baseball season. So we'll see whether they trade and get FLAHERTY out of Detroit or SKUBAL out of Detroit. I think one is going to wind up in L.A., the other I think is going to wind up at Yankee Stadium. But I don't think the season will be a failure because they didn't try, because, God, they got the highest budget in baseball. It's just a byproduct of you can't lose that many players. And all the dialogue about 17 on the DL, there is no Mookie Betts, there's no Max Muncy coming back either.
I think, if the Dodgers did nothing, it would be a failed trade deadline. They've got to go for it. They're the number 1 team in the National League in all of baseball, and they got Ohtani. So they're not done. There's going to be a Dodger deal in the next 24 hours.
On we go.
Let's go to Gregory. He says, I don't like that ruling. That leaves, if there are any family of O.J. Simpson, with nothing.
Well, they lost the civil lawsuit. I mean, granted, the trial was a different egg. They lost the civil lawsuit with the same set of circumstances, and the jury awarded them. I don't know that O.J.'s children, who I don't think had very much to do with him in the later stages of his career when he was living in Las Vegas in a hotel, I don't know. The civil ruling is that he had to pay, and he did not pay a dime, and he lived high off the hog in Las Vegas. thank you, lawyers and appeal courts and all that other crapola. So, I mean, the federal judge ruled they can seize all of the assets from the Simpson estate and it can be sold and distributed.
Yeah.
Terrible story. My whole attitude toward O.J. Simpson changed after the trial. And then when I found out Nicole Brown Simpson called the police 63 times during her marriage because of domestic abuse cases, my whole attitude towards O.J. Simpson, the person, not the player, the person, totally changed. So I'm biased. The Goldman and the Brown family deserves whatever they can get out of this case because they didn't get it when O.J. was alive.
Yeah, they got to liquidate the assets and pay the bill. I mean, that's justice. You know, just a side note is my mother worked closely and is very good friends with O.J.'s sister. They worked at a similar company. It's the same company in San Francisco for like 15 years. My mom is still convinced O.J.'s innocent.
I'm not going to degrade anything on your family tree.
Okay. Actually, Angel had another good comment here. TNT could have put a few exclusive games on Max. It's just like Amazon, and he's right.
Well, but except they're putting a huge amount of games on Amazon, not 3 games of specialty programming. I mean, the entire package is going to be on Amazon with a lot of pre and post stuff, etc. As I don't agree with a lot of stuff that comes out of Charles Barkley's mouth, but read the fine print, and they didn't read the fine print. In fact, I think this thing may cost the CEO of Warner Brothers his job.
Yeah, this is huge. It's a huge deal. Hey, let's go to social media. We got a bunch of comments over here as well. And here's another comment about the NBA on TNT. This is from Beach Bum. NBA is screwing up here. How many people will stop watching the NBA if there's no inside the NBA? I don't watch too many games, but I watch inside.
I think the insiders are going to wind up somewhere else. Bidding war, I'm sure it's going on already. And Barkley may say one thing on Monday. I'll guarantee you by Wednesday say something else, and by Friday maybe he's going to announce, we're going over there, we're taking a whole team over there. There will be a, quote, inside the NBA on one of these other channels.
Well, there's always a new crop of guys that are going to come up. I mean, like Draymond Green, people are saying is the next controversial, Charles Barkley. Yeah. And I was watching that USA Serbia game. I think it was Dwayne Wade was doing the color commentary.
Some people liked him. Some people did not like him.
Oh, I thought he was awesome. I mean, he really gave you some insight of what those players are feeling, what they're going through. And it sounded like more authentic than having some, glitzy, guy behind the microphone.
Yeah. A lot of people thought his insight was kind of cool because he played the game so well. Well, a lot of people also thought, though, because I kind of checked social media, a lot of people thought, there was too much the brotherhood.
No,
my bro.
That was the best part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you always like French pastry. I understand that. Next question.
All right, let's go back to some Dodger comments. This is from Captain Jack. They're doing it because Doc and Pryor are working magic, and the bats keep saving them in most games where we are absolutely outmatched in pitching.
They were overwhelmed in pitching. And I think the most impressive thing to me is how they've fast-forwarded and gotten all these kids out of Oklahoma City ready to step up and pitch. I mean, and the stage is not too big. If you just Google Los Angeles Dodger stats in 2024, I think they have now had 33 different pitchers on their roster this season. 33 different arms that Pryor has had to get ready for starts or come in and play the role in the bullpen. Now, none of them have been intimidated. There's only one pitcher I think they finally got rid of, Johan Ramirez, a young reliever who just fell apart on the mound the last couple of weeks, and they DFA'd him over the weekend. He got promptly claimed by Boston, but he's the only one of the young guys that said he doesn't belong here. So I think Roberts has held the clubhouse together with a lot of personalities and a lot of setbacks, and what Pryor's been able to do just to amp these young pitchers up had been pretty impressive. And, if they could get everybody back on the active roster between now and September 25th on the pitching staff, you say, wow, I mean, they got a lot of arms, but each of those arms comes with a risk. I mean, Kershaw may have pitched competitively first time, but how's he going to feel the second time he throws? I mean, you're babysitting him through 4 innings and hope there's not a setback. Then he's got to throw bullpens between starts, no setback there. Can he amp it up and do max effort a second time? And is there going to be a reaction? Because there always seems to be reaction, especially with him and Buehler. And Bobby Miller is throwing 93, 94 in a rehab at Oklahoma City, but he's been up twice and had setbacks twice and had to go back. So going to be fascinating to see what they get done in the next 55 days, 55 games.
Well, you know, the amazing comment here from Captain Jack that caught me by surprise is he's praising Dave Roberts. I mean, the overwhelming majority of people that are reacting to the social media posts that we're doing we're down on Dave Roberts. They think they're winning in spite of his bad decisions.
Well, a lot of that, but again, he's doing what the piece of paper that comes every day in the brown envelope from the analytics department says, we recommend you do this. Mm-hmm. And he's got to compound that with all the bloody injuries. That's a big, big issue. I mean, every time I look, somebody else has got a physical problem on the Dodger pitching staff. And the DL, it's monstrously big. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time as a talk show host and a podcast host, and I write about it. I've never seen a staff have 17 pitchers on the DL.
Well, remember a few years ago, the Padres pitching staff imploded.
Sure.
And we were picking guys up off the street, and it was terrible. I mean, they couldn't keep the team together. The team slipped out of any potential contention. It's incredible the Dodgers are holding this together. I'm just
awful lot of arms in the system. They draft well. They develop well. Now, they've had some bad luck with injuries, too.
Wow.
Next question.
Next question. This is a fun one. This is about the Padres and your take on Ruben Niebla as the MVP. And this is from Boof Time. Is this AI, Hacksaw? No way he says something positive about Padre baseball. I'm here for it.
I think Niebla has done an unbelievable job. And I think Schilt, despite the fact he does not hold people publicly accountable, I think has done a good job. And I think Preller knows talent. Now, how Preller pays for the talent, what Preller does with the talent that he gets, that he moves away. I have a responsibility to you, the fan, to give you the information and to have an opinion on the information. It's not negative all the time. But at the end of the day, in 9.5 years of your general manager's leadership, your team is still sub 500. Has the team been to the World Series yet on A.J. Preller's era? No. So I have to talk about that. I have to call him out because I firmly believe. I'm not making junk up. I'm not saying things to get you on the edge of the seat pissed. I'm just telling you what I know. I'm telling you what I think based on the knowledge I've dug up and what I see. So, no, it's not AI. That's Hacksaw being Hacksaw. Stop laughing.
Yeah, so, it's funny is that both Dodger fans and Padre fans
banging on me.
Always like, oh, he's so negative. You're just telling it like it is, like Howard Cosell. Did you ever get to meet Howard Cosell?
I interviewed him a couple of times.
So tell me about that.
He kept over in spring training, covering the Padres very early in my stay in San Diego, and I went over there, and there he was. And I never crossed paths with a guy I wouldn't ask to do an interview, but, Ted Williams, whomever. And here's Cosell. He was still at ABC. And I grew up watching Cosell.
Oh, yeah.
I was a Long Island kid. He's a New York lawyer, became a sportscaster. I went up, I introduced myself, and he kind of knew my name. Hacksaw, where did that come from? So I told him the story. and he always referred to me as young man. And, he was huge. He was like 6'4.5", 6'5". He was a
really
big man, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he said, young man, would you like me to sit in the dugout with you and do this interview? And he was great. He was so smart, so intelligent, so erudite. He was just phenomenal. You remember Chet Forty.
Oh, yeah.
Our friend that worked with us for a year at Extra 690. And Chet, of course, had been with Monday Night Football. He worked with Cosell. To listen to Chet with his New York accent, it was like listening to Howard with his New York accent. And both of them had unbelievable opinions on anything and everything, and they would tell you. But I laughed because he kept calling me young man.
The part about Cosell that I love is his relationship with Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. And they would both give each other a hard time, and they both respected and understood one another because they both helped one another. And most people only think of Cosell with Monday Night Football, but the whole Muhammad Ali is great.
Yeah. Back in the day when Monday Night Football first started taking off, I mean, it was a huge event in the community that the game was in. I remember the early years when I worked in Cleveland, and the Browns were on a Monday Night Football game, and they would hold a luncheon, a press conference and a big luncheon on Monday at 12 noon before the game that night. at Cleveland's old Municipal Stadium. And Cosell and Giff and Dandy Don would all be on the dais, and the media would go up and ask him questions. I mean, it was a huge
That's awesome.
freaking event. And Monday Night Football became must-see TV because of the persona, not just the games, but because of Howard turning to Dandy Don in the third quarter and say, Dandy, your turn. Turn out the lights. The party is over in the third quarter. So.
Well, it was like if your team played on Monday Night Football, you were legit. I mean, it was like, yeah, you got some street cred. But also, remember Howard Cosell and John Lennon? Not just that he reported his death on Monday Night Football, but the fact that they used to do things together on Monday Night Football. Mm-hmm. So Cosell is unbelievable, in sports history. And it's cool that you're connected to him because you play a part in sports history, too.
Young man. He was absolutely funny. I'm trying to remember. Harry Carey used to call me something. I can't remember what the hell it was, and I'm not sure I could put it on the podcast. But
Harry Carey.
Let's do one more here.
Okay, let's talk Yankees and Mets. This is from Paul. He goes, the Yankees hating goes way back before Steinbrenner. My dad, a Brooklyn Dodger fan, loathed the Bombers. He knew the Yanks were able to defeat numerous superior Dodger teams in the 40s and 50s. The Yankees and their fandom are hated because they're so lucky and successful with 27 world championships, 2 times as much as second place, which gives their fans an attitude that they deserve it. Let's go Mets.
Well, the Mets are trying to rebuild, and they probably will. They'll be unbelievably active in the winter in free agency, and I'll be interested to see what happens between now and 6 p.m. Yankee Stadium time on Tuesday, because they're going to make a deal. They got to make a deal to go get a frontline pitcher, and I think at the end of the day, because we run through the litany list of guys that are there, somebody's going to wind up with Tarek Skubal, the Detroit ace left-hander. The other one's going to wind up with Jack Flaherty, the right-hander, who's coming off injury since had a real unbelievable bounce-back season. One might be a Yankee, one might be a Dodger. And then we'll see what happens in the last month and a half of the season, and we'll see what happens in free agency, because Yankees and Mets are probably both going to be, quote, players for Juan Soto.
Yeah, and I think there's the Blake Snell situation, too, is cooking. So, what's funny is, like, in the late 70s, the Dodgers played the Yankees in the World Series, and I was so conflicted as a kid because I was a Giants fan growing up, so I hated the Dodgers, but then the Yankees were like, they were like the Death Star. They were like the Darth Vader, and so I wasn't sure who to root for, but those Yankees teams with Reggie Jackson hitting 3 home runs in the 70s in the World Series, that was a special time.
So was a special Mantle and Maris. So is a special the Yankees in the 40s. So is a special the Bambino in the 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, there is such an unbelievable tradition. I mean, first time I went to a Major League game, my dad took me to Yankee Stadium to see my Cleveland Indians.
Because you were a Yankee hater.
Oh, I did not like Mantle, Maris, and Whitey Ford and Yogi, and they were so great. And first time I walked into Yankee Stadium with my dad, I just stood there in awe, and I was floored at the overhang on the top of the stadium with the white, not trellis, what do you call that?
The facade?
Facade.
Yeah.
And then they had the monuments out in center field against the wall, and I thought somebody was buried beneath those monuments. Miller Huggins, the great Yankees of yesteryear. I thought the monuments was where the bodies were buried.
Those are they look like tombstones.
Yeah,
back
they
then.
were, exactly.
But were they in? They weren't in play. They were. They were.
Oh, yeah.
And the ball could rattle around in there?
Yes, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I remember a game against the old Baltimore Orioles. Somebody hit a ball that got past the outfielder and went and ricocheted off the wall in the back of the monuments. They were tombstones. Now, they've moved them after they renovated Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
They moved them behind the wall, and they have all the plaques there now. But back in the day, when I was an 8-year-old, they had 3 monuments in dead center field, and I thought Yankee legends were buried there because it was Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium was like a cathedral.
It's like Donald Trump burying his wives on the golf course.
Oh.
I know when I was a little kid, I went to Candlestick Park for the first time, and it was a day game, and it was actually decent weather. I was just so overwhelmed at how green the grass was. And on a blue sky day, it was like... everything was vibrant in color and experience. So those first trips to the ballpark, that's a good time.
Yeah. coldest winter day I ever spent was watching a game at Candlestick Park in the summer.
In the summer. It was brutal, man. I'm telling you.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our Monday bonus podcast, our trading deadline show. A couple of business items. Please join me. Join my Twitter all-star team. Just go on X, and my handle is @Hacksaw1090. @Hacksaw1090. Trying to build this thing to get to 10,000 followers. Check my website. I write on it every day of the week. When we're done with this podcast, just punch it up on your laptop, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Join the Insiders Group. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do on Mondays and Thursdays. And we want you to subscribe so you'll get all the alerts every time we put something up on our YouTube channel. Podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego, and by North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido, offering free eye exams right now. Have to tell them Hacksaw sent me in, North County Eye Center. John, get your paper and pencil out so you can continue to update the baseball trade deadline list. Tuesday is going to be a fun day. We've already had, as I said, 23 trades made going into the start of this podcast. I bet we're going to get maybe another 7 to 10 more before this thing is done. We'll be back in here on Thursday to kind of give a summary report of what's going on.
Yeah, I'll be hitting the refresh button on my phone, waiting for all these trades. Yeah.
Have yourself a great day. Thank you for joining us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.